In the summer of 2000, the city of San Diego, California, was the site of a gruesome discovery. On August 14th, a young man searched a dumpster outside a pet shop. He was looking for cans to recycle. Inside a paper bag, he saw something that startled him. It looked like a charred finger. Investigators from the San Diego Police Department were called to the scene. They questioned the man who called in the report. He said he was collecting aluminum cans when he found what he thought were fingers.
Could you stay right here? We're going to go ahead and check it out. But could you stay right here first? Sure. Okay, thanks.
Although they appeared to be human fingertips, detectives needed to be sure.
Call the forensic specialist.
They called in experts to analyze the findings. Investigators hoped the crime lab would find more answers. Forensic expert Tom Washington examined the fingertips.
The main challenge was identifying the victim. We had the fingertips, but we didn't know who they belonged to.
But the tips were so badly charred, a readable fingerprint would not be possible. Police knew they would need more information if they ever hoped to find out where these fingertips came from and how they ended up in the dumpster. 8 human fingertips had been found inside a dumpster in San Diego. Who they belonged to and how they got there were anybody's guess. Police looked at items found in the dumpster for clues that might lead them to the killer. At the San Diego Police Crime Lab, the bolt cutters were examined by forensic specialist Sean Monpetit. Investigators suspected they had been used to cut off the missing victim's fingers.
When I looked at the bolt cutters, I noticed what appeared to be small pieces of apparent tissue on the cutting surfaces.
It was determined to be human and saved for DNA analysis. But no fingerprints were found on the item. Investigating further, police hoped the bolt cutters would yield more clues. Using the SKU number, Detective Bill Holmes set out to see who purchased them.
The bolt cutters were purchased with a credit card, but because of the time of day when we got the information, we couldn't access the computer to find out who that credit card belonged to. We had the number, but we couldn't find out at that time who it belonged to.
Were there any other items that were bought by insurance?
The investigators noticed an additional charge on the credit card.
If you rented a machine, you had to get a credit card.
The same person who purchased the bolt cutters also rented a carpet cleaner.
In doing further checking, we learned that that credit card was used to pay for the rental of the rug doctor at the same store. But for the rug doctor, you had to fill out and sign a rental contract.
The name on the rental contract was Kelvin Parker. Police now had a solid lead to track down. A few miles north of San Diego, in Carlsbad, California, 2 residents discovered something unusual on their daily walk.
We were walking the trash can, so we walked a little close to it, and it...
Although it was an ordinary trash can, the lid had been secured shut with duct tape.
Stay right back here by the car, and I'm gonna go take a look at it, okay?
The trash can emitted an unusually strong, foul odor. The officer carefully opened the trash can and discovered the body of a woman.
need a coroner's van to 5000 Christopher Street.
At the San Diego County Medical Examiner's office, Dr. Christopher Swalwell examined the victim, a white female in her early 30s. The level of the body's decomposition put time of death somewhere between 1 and 3 days earlier. She was naked except for a scarf around her neck. Since his office had been notified of the findings in the dumpster, Dr. Swalwell knew what to look for.
The fingers were all missing. So that's when we sort of put two and two together and worked under the assumption that those two were related.
Dr. Swalwell determined the cause of death to be a large cut on the side of her neck, which severed her jugular vein.
The other significant injury she had was a laceration on the scalp, which actually had an underlying skull fracture, so that was a significant injury.
There was also evidence that the victim had been raped. Dr. Swalwell noted strange bruises around the victim's wrists, on her face, and on her back, indicating the woman had been beaten prior to her death. At the same lab, Dr. Norman Sperber, a tool mark expert, was called in to examine the strange markings on the victim's body. He believed the killer had handcuffed the victim behind her back, and that the cuffs had left the deep marks on both her wrists and on her back.
We took out some handcuffs from property down at the San Diego Police Department. I applied those handcuffs to her wrists and had her body face down on the examining table, and the handcuffs just came right to place where that horizontal mark was, just on the lower back.
The victim was restrained and subdued before she was murdered. As news of the grisly homicide hit the streets, people came forward with information. One witness lived in an apartment facing the dumpster. She had seen something unusual the night before the fingers were discovered.
She said that she saw a rental truck back up to the dumpster. A black male exit the truck and throw a couple bags into the dumpster and then leave.
The witness also remembered seeing the man throw something into the bushes.
Her initial impression was that it was a cigarette, but she didn't see any ashes or sparks coming from it.
Investigators returned to the scene and searched the area. They found the tip of the victim's right thumb. The tip was taken to the San Diego Police Crime Lab. Tom Washington performed the examination. The print had enough ridge detail to capture a clear print. But after running it through the database and coming up empty, they still had no one to compare it to. Investigators had found a ring of blood in a vehicle rented by Calvin Parker, a man whose name came up early in the investigation. At the San Diego Police Crime Lab, Sean Monpetit compared the tissue on the bolt cutters to the victim's DNA. He then compared the findings with the blood in the truck. Both the blood and the flesh on the bolt cutters matched the victim's DNA. Police cautiously entered the suspect's residence. There was no sign of him, but as they began searching, investigators found clues that made everything fall into place.
When we entered the apartment, We weren't sure who our victim was. We didn't know a name. We were sure that the Carlsbad body belonged to our fingers, but we had no idea who she was until we entered Calvin's apartment. And then we found her pictures and found her identification card.
Her name was Misty Gear, and she was Calvin Parker's roommate. Investigators would spend the next week working 18-hour shifts to recover over 100 pieces of evidence. The evidence against Calvin Parker was quickly mounting. Forensic examiners sprayed luminol throughout the apartment to detect any blood. Although the carpet had been recently cleaned, massive bloodstains led from Misty's bedroom into the bathroom. Investigators hoped those who knew Misty best would lead them straight to Parker.
We have some questions about Misty Greer. We understood worked here.
They asked her co-workers about the suspect's relationship to Misty.
He and Misty had been roommates for about 3 months, each having their own bedroom and bathroom, strictly platonic, although he did have desires for her. She wanted nothing to do with him in that way.
Police now had a motive. Calvin Parker was obsessed with his roommate. But they still needed to find the missing suspect. The apartment was still under 24-hour surveillance. On the morning of August 15th, Calvin Parker stopped by his apartment to pick up his mail.
There it is. Hey, Calvin. You know why we're here? Yeah. Put your hands behind your head. Stay there. Put your hands behind your head.
He was arrested
Turn
and
around.
taken in for questioning.
We found the girl's fingers in the dumpster.
In the interrogation room, police confronted Calvin Parker with the overwhelming evidence they had compiled against him.
So please tell me what happened.
Parker told Sergeant Holmes his version of events that led to Misty's death.
Calvin said that he was home watching TV in his bedroom when Misty returned from work about 10:30 or so that evening. She went into her bedroom, was watching TV. About half an hour later, he went into her bedroom, sat on her bed, they watched TV for a little bit, and then they had consensual sex.
According to Parker, Misty agreed to be his girlfriend, then changed her mind. They argued, and she insulted him. He said he couldn't take it and just snapped.
He lost his temper, picked up a picture frame that was next to the bed, and struck her 3 times, once in the head, in the throat, and in the chest. She started bleeding profusely.
The extent of her injuries and the handcuff marks on Misty's wrists told a different story.
We did find picture frames next to the bed, none of which were damaged, none of which were strong enough or heavy enough to do the damage we saw on Misty's body.
Investigators believe Calvin Parker was attracted to Misty. When she didn't return his affection, he grew dangerously obsessed and attacked her while she slept. He then dragged her body into the bathroom, where he cut off her fingertips to destroy her identity. On July 17, 2002, Calvin Parker was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to death.